All right, today we're going to take a look at the McFarlane Toys Superman Returns, Brandon Routh Superman. And I've been looking forward to this one because I just happened to be a kid when Superman Returns came out. So Brandon was kind of my first introduction to the character in many ways, and it's nice to finally have him in action figure form. I know there was those original Superman Returns toys, but having one that's kind of geared more towards collectors is nice. So it's going to be about 80 to 85% the same figure as the Christopher Reeve Superman, which for me is totally fine in terms of the costume because they were very similar in sort of texture and fabric and the way they looked. So that's not too bad on terms of reuse. You can see the glyphs are going to be different on the chests. The heads are obviously different. The diapers are different. And even the boots are different. One thing about the boots on the Superman Returns that's really cool is the little S's that are carved into it. So that's a nice detail that they really didn't have to do there. And then obviously the capes, the colors are going to be different too, but overall it's probably about 80 to 85% reuse, which isn't terrible in terms of the costume and everything. However, in terms of scale, Christopher Reeve was a lot taller than I shouldn't say a lot taller. He was 6'4" compared to 6'2", but it does make a difference. So, for instance, Adam West was also 6'2", just like Brandon Routh, and the Adam West figure we got is quite a bit smaller than Brandon Routh. So you can see how it's kind of frustrating with McFarlane and scale because it's really not that hard to calculate how big a 1/10 figure should be of a human when it comes to their height and everything. So they should really all be in scale with each other, especially the movie, theatrical, live action figures, because it's pretty easy to figure out how tall they should be. But anyway, that's just kind of a rant on scale here. So the figure looks pretty good. I was originally going to get 2 of these because I wanted to do a sort of custom head swap with the with the Kingdom Come, the Page Puncher Superman that McFarlane recently had to kind of create the Crisis on Infinite Earths Brandon Routh look. But D Hunter went ahead and already did it, and after seeing what it looks like, the proportions are just kind of off. The skin tones are a little too different, and the way it looks overall just isn't quite right with the neck and how small the head looks on that body. I know Brandon's a big guy, but the proportions on that comic Superman are just a little too different to look good with the Brandon Routh head. So maybe there's another way to approach it other than that head swap, but for now I'm going to stick with the Superman Returns. Now, he doesn't come with anything other than, of course, the trading card and the stand. So he comes with the 2 fists. Now, the Christopher Reeve did come with an abundance of extra hands, which are going to work just fine with Brandon Routh because it's essentially the same body. However, because the skin tones are so different, I mean, Christopher Reeve has more of a tan, you can see, especially you can see it on the hands. He has more of a tan than Brandon. So if you're going to do some, hand swaps, it's going to be pretty easy to do. However, the hands are going to look more tan, and they're also looking a little larger too. So maybe if you swapped both hands, but then the skin tone of the face and everything wouldn't quite look right. So you can do that, especially if you wanted to get some flight poses. It's a shame that he didn't at least come with 1 extra set of hands. You can see these hands are just huge too, so it's not bad. And with lighting, if you're doing photography, you can always work with the lighting to get it to look a little bit better, but shame that he only came with the fisted hands. So we're going to go ahead and do some comparisons now. One thing I want to note is you ever get a figure and it seems like one leg is longer than the other? I'm having that problem with this Superman here. For some reason, trying to get him to stand. It always seems like his left leg is like slightly longer, so he's always like constantly tipping towards one direction. It's kind of annoying, but let's go ahead and get some comparisons in. So like I said, here he is with, let me just move this real quick. Here he is with the Christopher Reeve. And you could totally head swap these two, but you know, if you wanted to see how Christopher Reeve would look in the Superman Returns costume, it actually looks pretty good. If you can look past the skin tones, it's not bad. He's just so tan that it sticks out like a sore thumb. And then we'll show the other side of that, being Brandon Routh on the classic costume, which also looks pretty good, other than the skin tones being so drastically different from the head to the neck. So that's actually kind of a cool little head swap there. So there he is with the Christopher Reeve Superman. Now let's put him next to, we're going to do the Christian Bale Batman. You guys remember in the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith, there was a billboard in sort of the post-apocalyptic city, and it was a Batman Batman and Superman logo billboard for a movie. Well, that was 2007, so this is the duo we would have gotten in 2007, which is kind of crazy to think because they're so drastically different in tone and nature, those two universes. But that would be kind of cool. And then, again, we'll show him next to Adam West, too. And like I said, just the scale is kind of a little annoying that they couldn't get at least a little closer, but you know, it's easy for them to do the reuse, and if the Christopher Reeve is pretty much spot on in terms of scale, how he should be, so for them to just reuse it, you know, it's not too big of a deal. So yeah, that's going to be it on our look at the Brandon Routh Superman. I like it. You know, it's satisfying enough for me. The likeness, let's get a closer look at the likeness. It's definitely Brandon. It's not perfect. Especially that side profile looks a lot like Brandon Routh. So yeah, if I figure out a workaround for the Crisis on Infinite Earths, maybe there's another way to go about it. But for now, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll be back. I think we're going to take a look at that Page Puncher Robin next, and maybe do some head swaps and comparisons with him.